early. If you would like one.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's telephone town hall. My name is Charles Parasino, and I will be moderating tonight's event with Congressman John Larson and special guest Dr. William Gillespie, a pediatrician at Charter Oak Health Center. Thank you for joining our interactive Access Live event. This evening, Representative John Larson will be taking your questions and discussing the ongoing government shutdown. As I mentioned, this is an interactive forum, and we would love to hear from you. We will be taking as many questions from participants as we possibly can live tonight. If you have a question, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you will be placed in line to speak. The next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call and will be able to ask your question directly. If you are joining us online, you can submit your question in the form below the live stream video. Representative Larson will do his best to answer as many questions as we possibly can this evening. If the Congressman is able to address your question, please call 860-278-8888 and leave a message along with your phone number or email address. Staff will listen to your voicemail and get back to you with an answer to your question. Again, if you have any questions throughout the event, please press *3 on your keypad. And to sign up for Congressman Larson's newsletter to receive updates and information about future events, press *6 on your keypad. Now, I will turn it over to the Congressman.
Well, thank you, Charles, very much for that introduction, and thank everyone again for joining us. We think, especially during this government shutdown, it's important to keep our constituents informed of events that are transpiring and going on, and giving you hopefully some insight into what's happening. Obviously, we all hope that we get back to D.C. soon, and our colleagues across the aisle come to their senses and do the right thing. But so much of this is determined, frankly, by the president and what he wants to do. I'd like to say with some confidence that the House is a co-equal branch of government and operates on its own, but unfortunately that's not the case. And Speaker Johnson has not reconvened the Congress. We were supposed to be back to do regular business in October and have not been back. In fact, since July the 5th, we've only been in Congress for 19 days. That is, in my estimation, dereliction of duty, number one, and as importantly, especially when we're in the process of a shutdown and we know that people are going to be impacted by this, all the more reason to be there, to be discussing the path forward and demonstrate to the American people that government does work on their behalf. We have the Senate, of course, as you know, continues to meet and vote on a regular basis, but Speaker Johnson has opted not to. We are in 22 days into the government shutdown, and we will continue to hold forums like this, and I'm especially pleased that tonight we're going to be joined by Dr. William Gillespie, who you'll hear from shortly, as we have in the past, having experts in the field come in and discuss what all this means from the health perspective, because that's who's impacted the most throughout all of this. Most importantly, if you're having trouble with any federal agency or any issue, you can reach out anytime to our office at 860-278-8888. That's a lot of eights, but it's 860-278-8888. Many of you may be wondering what is a government shutdown and how did we get here? Well, the shutdowns have occurred, unfortunately, more frequently as late, and this is the third one under Donald Trump in just the last 12 years. So hopefully we're out of this soon, but each year, as you're probably aware, Congress must approve funding for the upcoming fiscal year by September 30th. When Congress doesn't, the government shuts down. As I indicated, this is now the fifth such significant government shutdown in our history and the third shutdown when Donald Trump was president. Most importantly, I want you to understand what is open and available during this time. My office has prepared a webpage with answers to common questions that you may have that you can visit at larson.house.gov. For now, Medicare, Social Security, and veterans benefits will continue. But staff at all these agencies have been furloughed, reducing the number of staff available to meet requests and concerns that people have. And alarmingly, our office has been told by the agencies they are discontinuing congressional inquiries. That is not right, and we are pushing back against that. And I assure you, we are here to serve you all throughout this time, and we will continue to send and communicate your inquiries on your behalf. That's the job and the role of a member of Congress. You will continue to receive your mail. Passports will still be processed. SNAP benefits will continue until the end of the month. If this shutdown continues past October 31st, SNAP benefits could be paused, which would be a disaster for Connecticut families. I was glad to see Governor Lamont step up to ensure that WIC nutrition benefits for women, infants, and children will continue during the shutdown. Thank you, Governor Lamont. I introduced the bill along with Representative Johanna Hayes to ensure that the state is reimbursed for stepping up, and I am working to ensure that SNAP recipients are also not impacted by this shutdown. Airports are operating as usual, but 22 days into the shutdown, we are starting to see delays at airports across the country. Please take these into consideration as you plan your travel during the shutdown. I listened to Speaker Johnson the other day, and I just want to comment briefly on here on some of the mistruths that are circulating out there. I know this is a scary and uncertain time, and you are likely hearing all sorts of conflicting information through social media or whatever the source might be. But here's the truth. Republicans control the presidency, they control the House, and they control the Senate. If they wanted to open government, they could do it, and they could do it today. They are in the majority. They control the executive branch and the Congress. So when they tell you that this is a Democratic shutdown, number one, that is way off base. Number two, it's a shutdown because of their policies that they're doing and what they're trying to unfairly extract from the American people. They are choosing to drag this out to make it painful for the American people because they are unwilling to work with Democrats. This week, Speaker Johnson, Chip Roy from Texas, repeated lie after lie about the shutdown. They claim Democrats are holding out so that undocumented immigrants can get free health care. That is flat out false and a lie, and has been documented by several sources. Undocumented immigrants cannot enroll in federally funded Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act coverage. Don't just take that from me. Access Health Connecticut CEO James Michael has said it. Healthcare nonprofit Kaiser Family Foundation has said it. And even the Trump administration's own healthcare.gov says it. And also, the New York Times and CNN and a variety of sources. You know, things are going bad when they call No Kings rallies Hate America rallies. I was at 4 of those rallies throughout the district in Glastonbury, Hartford, Granby, and Windsor. I did not see hate, nor did I see any violence taking place. What I saw is Americans coming out to speak their mind and stand up for what they know is right. And Americans, young, old, are coming out to speak and express their opinion, as that's about as American as it gets. Across this country, there were more than 7 million patriotic Americans who came out to make their voices heard. The right to protest is a right endowed to all of us in the Constitution. It's plain wrong to label these events as anti-American. It's another attempt by our colleagues across the aisle to redirect your attention away from the health care crisis they have placed us in. Some Americans may have been born at night, but not last night, and they know a con when they see one. Republicans need to stop with these baseless lies and get back to work. As I said earlier, the House hasn't been in session since September the 19th. That's outrageous. The American people deserve better. Our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, has summoned us to Washington every week so far to address these issues, but the Republicans have not shown up. I want to be clear as well that during this shutdown, I will not be taking my salary as a member of Congress. I have introduced a bill that I call Make America Govern Again Act, MAGA for short, to ensure all federal workers and our troops are paid during this shutdown. The bill would not only stop members of Congress, but it would also stop the president and all the agency heads of the administration and his cabinet members from taking a check. We do not need to punish the everyday workforce of either the executive or legislative branches. But the decision makers, the members of Congress and the executive branch and all their agencies who make these decisions should be held accountable, and they should be held accountable by way of them being the ones who do not receive their pay, not the federal agencies that are impacted, and also serving as a guise for Trump to lay off more people than he already has, like the 7,000 people who have been laid off at Social Security. We should all be able to agree that federal workers should be paid and fully expect them to receive the back pay that they are guaranteed when this is over. Trump administration tried to lay off an additional 4,200 federal workers during the shutdown, but this requires, by law, a 60-day notice, and a judge blocked this illegal firing attempt because he saw it for what it is. Trump has tried to eliminate the entire Office of Special Education, as well as staff who oversee mental health and addiction services and disease prevention efforts at the CDC. Trump also has tried to say some federal workers won't receive back pay, but he, in fact, has signed legislation that we voted for into law himself, guaranteeing that back pay, and we won't let him ignore that law. I will continue to stand up for federal workers and ensure they receive the pay they are due. Our troops were paid earlier this month, and I am also supporting the Pay Our Military Act to ensure they continue to be paid while the government is shut down. You can continue to reach my office for assistance. We will always be there to help you. You can call us at 860-278-8888. Not only did the Republicans pack up and leave town ahead of this shutdown, they are also still refusing to work with Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act and its credits to 20 million Americans who rely on them. Republicans have thus manufactured their own health care crisis and government shutdown. Simple as that. Democrats are willing to come to the table. We've been in Washington, and calling upon Donald Trump and his Republican minions to come back, even though he's saying don't bother negotiating, shutting down the government instead on health care has been his goal. The Trump Republican budget means 15 million Americans lose health care, both through Medicaid coverage and the Affordable Care Act plans, including 167,000 people in Connecticut. That's simply unacceptable. With the Affordable Care Act tax credits set to expire, millions more will be saddled with higher premiums next year. That's why Democrats are fighting to make sure that we prevent these cuts. If these tax credits expire, 19,000 residents, 19,000 in the first district alone, will see their costs skyrocket. The average family of four will have to pay $2,571 more dollars next year. Believe it or not, even Marjorie Taylor Greene has begun to break with her own party on this issue. I never thought I'd see the day when I'd be aligned with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but on this issue, we are. And I have to give her credit for speaking out and speaking her mind about what this means. And while I don't find myself often agreeing with her, she's right. And she has noted how this has impacted her families, hardworking people in her district. And in an NBC interview, she said, when it comes to a point where families are spending anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month and looking at hikes coming on their insurance premiums, I think that's unforgivable. She's right, it is, and Congress needs to get back and act, and she needs to continue to speak to her Republican colleagues in the House and the President, who she so admires and respects. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege for the wealthy few. Donald Trump is not going to be impacted by anything that's taking place or going on. He doesn't know what it's like to go without a meal. He doesn't know what it's like to have to struggle to make ends meet, to pay a rent or a mortgage. These are real people and real concerns, and especially those who need access to health care. And this is going to impact everyone, not just the people that are impacted because of something we refer to as uncompensated care. And I know that Dr. Gillespie will probably mention this a little bit, but the doctors in the hospitals are still going to see patients, but they're uncompensated for that. And more people are not going to take insurance because they can't afford it. And then the emergency room becomes the only path forward for people to get their health care. That is flat out wrong, and we're going to continue to fight against that as well. I hope many of you saw Chris Murphy on the floor of the Senate last week when he stood up and said, because a lot of questions that we have gotten about Trump's authoritarian power grabs continue. Well, I think Chris said it best. The authoritarian takeover isn't coming, it's here. We're in the middle of it, but it's not too late for everybody to see it, to stand up for it, and stop it. That, in part, is what this past weekend was all about. When you call all your generals from around the world and summon them to Virginia to tell them you want to make our cities here in the United States training grounds for the military so he can go after what he called the enemy from within. From Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles and Portland and Chicago, we've seen our service members deployed against the American people. Against them, not on their behalf. It's not coincidental either that they just all happen to be Democratic governors in Democratic cities that he sent people to. When he said the enemy within, I think it's pretty clear what he's talking about. Here in Connecticut, we've seen mass ICE agents raid car washes in Newington, in Southington, in Hamden just last week, tearing mothers away from their children and leaving communities scared to go about their daily lives. That's not the America we all know and love and respect. These raids are not about safety, they're about fear. When in United States history have we seen people with black masks and armed with guns coming to take people away? I'm pushing back in every way that we know how, with legislation, with challenges in courts. I want to commend William Tong, our Attorney General, for all the work that he has done on our behalf. It's also why I'm championing the No Secret Police Act in Congress that requires all agents to identify themselves and stop wearing masks. I've spoken up loudly. The Trump administration has tries to intimidate people like me and others, including my colleagues Hakeem Jeffries and Jasmine Crockett. I consider it a badge of honor to be placed on his hit list. But we must continue to speak up forcefully against these abuses, and you can count on me to continue to do that. We won't be backing down. Now, I want to turn it over to Dr. William Gillespie, a pediatrician at Charter Oak, and thank him for taking time out from his schedule this evening to be with us and share some of his thoughts on this shutdown and its impact. Dr. Gillespie.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you for convening this call. I am Dr. Bill Gillespie, a board-certified pediatrician. I'm serving patients from downtown Hartford and surrounding towns at the Charter Oak Health Center here in downtown Hartford, and I've been doing this for several years. I'd like to add a few comments onto what the Congressman had to say, because I also, from a clinical perspective, am very concerned about the impact of proposed funding cuts on our ability to provide quality health care. In my specialty of pediatrics, it's well established that children thrive best when they're properly nourished, properly educated, and mentally and physically healthy. Being able to thrive depends on, among other things, having convenient access to health care and limited or no barriers to that care. Connecticut uses an approach that does that. With Husky funding, Medicaid funding, Connecticut is able to support important programs like the ones we run at Charter Oak Health Center. So our state and our state's leadership sees and understands the value in good health that's deserved by every resident and every citizen. I have many children in my practice who would not get the timely vaccines, the necessary medications to treat their illnesses, and the continuous routine care they need to be as healthy as they can be, to thrive and to reach their potential. I think it would be an absolute shame if we have to increase financial barriers to care and lower our high standards for the prudent use of resources, best-in-class medical health care, and having every patient leave every visit feeling valued and cared for, like they are today. Where this is going is a concern to all of my colleagues, and we just hope that we're able to do what's right with the Congressman's leadership to limit the impact that these proposed funding cuts would have on our ability to provide the quality health care that the state of Connecticut citizens deserve. I will tell you that Connecticut has a reputation nationally of being very forward-thinking about seeing the value of quality health care for all citizens, all residents of the state. And for that, I think we should be very proud. Congressman?
Well, again, Dr. Gillespie, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and he is going to remain with us throughout the call so that if you have a question, especially medical questions and technical questions, he's in a far better position to answer than I, but I can't thank him enough for being here. This is what democracy actually looks like. When you have an issue like this, we should be home. The reason we do telephone communication is because we can reach more people. And we've done a series of town halls, and we get 50 to 75 people maybe, and that's good, and I enjoy doing them. But 50 to 75 as compared to 1,000 people, this is a better way, and we think this seems to be a relatively good time of the evening to do that. So having said all that and thanking Dr. Gillespie again, let me open it to the questions, Charles.
Thank you, Congressman. Before I go to our first caller, I'd like to remind folks, if you have a question and you'd like to ask the Congressman on the line tonight, you can press *3 now. If you'd like to sign up for the newsletter, you can press *6. Now we will begin taking questions from the audience. And our first question comes from Kelly, who's on the line tonight with a question about SNAP nutrition benefits. Kelly, you are live with the Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman Larson, and everybody here. I appreciate it. My question is, if for some reason SNAP is not reinstated, more likely than not, what are we going to do about food, in general? Because even the food banks have been cut back. So I hate to say it, but when people get hungry, things get really ugly.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for your question, and I wish, let's hope that rational minds prevail and we get back to Washington ASAP and end this government shutdown and make sure that the SNAP program continues. Currently, it's continuing, but some are already, as you have, conjecturing that they'll be interrupted for the month of November. The SNAP program does have contingency funds to supply at least some benefits across the country, but the Trump administration would need to authorize these funds. Connecticut state officials are examining all of the options, including working with Food Share and local food banks in the event that SNAP benefits are disrupted. And again, I want to commend Governor Lamont and the Connecticut General Assembly because they clearly may be called upon to assist people because, Kelly, as you point out, it gets very angry and ugly when people start losing their benefits. But more importantly, it's immoral and it's wrong for children, the disabled, the elderly, and people, human beings, our fellow citizens, that in the, as we approach winter, to cut off food, it's bad to cut off food no matter what season it is, but it becomes especially harsh during this time of the year as well. For now, the Department of Social Services is advising SNAP recipients to spend all of their existing benefits from now until the end of the month, stock up just in case, and access to what's commonly referred to as an EBC card or electronic benefit cards are lost. So please, if you're a SNAP recipient, make sure you stock up and have the food. Who knows what will happen with this administration? The administration should, and we will be pressing them to authorize the contingency funds, and they should also reopen government now. Next question.
Our next question is from an online submission, Winston, who is joining us from Bloomfield, and he asks, what can be done to rein in ICE's activities as their tactics appear to be escalating?
Winston? Well, thank you, Winston. Well, look, clear and simple. ICE needs to be accountable to the American people. I'm the co-sponsor of No Mask for ICE Act and the No Secret Police Act. Both would ban ICE from concealing their identities and require them to clearly display their insignia. It is also a violation of the transparency and accountability we count on from our safety, for the safety of our constituents. And we want to make sure that we continue down that path that underscores the safety of our constituents. Masked law enforcement in unmarked vans, that's not the America I know. What we witnessed that happened in Newington and in Southington and in Hamden last week is just simply flat out immoral and wrong. I am also the co-sponsor of the Protective Sensitive Locations Act, which would bar ICE from arresting people in schools, hospitals, houses of worship, and social services. The mayor of Newington told me quite frankly that, his wife, who's an immigrant, is fearful of going out. Imagine being the mayor of a city and your wife is afraid to go out in the community that you're the mayor of. We will keep speaking up loudly against these abuses and fighting for our immigrant communities. And these tactics are flat out un-American.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question is a caller, Stephen from Glastonbury. He has a question about Social Security. And Stephen, you are live with the Congressman.
Thank you, Congressman, and I wanted to say thank you for your continued service, your courage, your resilience in this very, very challenging time, and always. So thank you for that. And just as an aside, Mr. Trump has a history of not paying his bills to workmen that has worked with him even before his presidency, and shame on him. So my question is this: is there any discussion about increasing the or eliminating the FICA payments on salaries? Right now, it's somewhere around maybe $140,000, and then after that, you don't pay anything. And it seems to me that people in those categories can afford to pay or continue to pay for the rest of the year their FICA payments.
Well, first and foremost, you're absolutely right, but there is a cap on FICA. Well, in this case, FICA, as I think everybody knows, is on your pay stub, and everyone can look at it. And I often cite this as making sure everybody understands that when the Republicans say that Social Security is an entitlement, it's not. It's an earned benefit that you paid for. And you can look right on your pay stub, and it says FICA. That stands for Federal Insurance Contribution. Whose? Yours. You pay into it monthly. Now, some would argue that, the business community pays the other half of that. Well, temporarily they do. But they also get fully reimbursed by the taxpayer, who is, of course, you. So you are fully paying for your Social Security benefits. And as Stephen points out, there's been a cap, but the cap rises each year. For example, the current FICA cap is $176,000. Having said that, though, there should be no cap on Social Security, in my humble estimation. But you may recall that President Biden came out with what many thought was a reasonable compromise, and he said that let's just lift the cap on people making over $400,000. Now, usually when I'm in an audience, I say, raise your hand if you're making over $400,000. And to date, I haven't had a hand go up except once in East Hartford guy raised his hand, and I know the family. I looked at him. I said, "You're making over $400,000?" He said, "No, but it felt good to raise my hand." And I'm sure it would feel good to everybody to make $400,000. But the truth of the matter is, we're all Americans, and this is Americans. This is the number one program that preserves capitalism, entrepreneurialism, and free markets. The brilliance of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, well, actually, Frances Perkins, our first woman labor secretary, she actually came up with the idea of Social Security. But the goal should be to lift this cap, as President Biden proposed, and in doing so, we can expand Social Security credits. Now, hold on to your seats. If you haven't heard me say this before, the last time that Social Security was expanded across the board, Richard Nixon was President of the United States in 1971. We have had a bill out there to do just that, to expand the benefits of Social Security and its solvency. Currently, Social Security is slated to lose benefits, and it expires now in 2033 if Congress does not act. Our proposal will not only make sure that solvency is extended in the program, but make sure that we increase benefits. Why is that important? One, as you heard me say, they haven't been increased across the board since 1971. Two, and most importantly, more than 5 million fellow Americans get below poverty level checks from Social Security currently because it hasn't been adjusted since 1971. The new floor under our proposal will always be 125% of what the poverty level is. What does that mean? It means that you've worked and paid into a system your entire life, and you were making minimum wage or whatever the case, but you paid into that insurance program. The floor for that insurance program will always be 125% of what the level is, meaning no one will ever be able to work all their lives, pay into a system, and retire into poverty. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody's going to get wealthy on Social Security, no matter what your income level is. But its design, as you know, was not only for pensions, but also spouses, widows, dependent children, and as importantly, disability, which of course, more veterans rely on Social Security disability than they do on the VA. It is unconscionable that Trump allowed Doge and Elon Musk to go into Social Security, and now they have pilfered the records and documents of our citizens and say they've placed it in a cloud, but nobody knows whether that's secure or not, and they refuse to come before Congress and testify because their Republican counterparts will not call them in front of us. You may have seen me earlier this year looking like I was perhaps having a stroke, but going after the fact that Elon Musk would not come before the Committee on Ways and Means that has cognizance over Social Security and explain what they were doing and why they needed everyone's personal data and information and facts on every single individual. That's flat out wrong. So our goal is to do this. And they say, well, how are you going to expand these benefits, make sure that no one retires into poverty, make sure that people don't have long disability waiting periods? We're going to do so by having the wealthy pay their fair share. That's not much of an ask. No one's going to go bankrupt having to pay their Social Security like everybody else. If somebody making $50,000 a year is paying into Social Security, why shouldn't a person making $500,000 and above pay into it? The short answer is they should. And guess what that does? That allows us to expand the program it allows us to pay the benefits, and it allows us to extend the solvency of Social Security as well. This is my number one mission and focus in Congress, and I will not relent on this. I assure everyone on this line, and please, with any questions or issues that you have with regard to Social Security, call our office, 860-278-8888, or in D.C., 202-225-2265. We're here to help you. Thank you.
Our next question is an online question from Gilbert in South Windsor, who asks, what pressure can members put on Speaker Johnson to swear in the elected representative from Arizona, Adelita Grijalva?
Well, Gilbert, thank you for that question. We were with her just last week, and it is beyond belief that the Speaker of the House will not swear in this newly elected member. Adelita replaced her father, Raul Grijalva, and her swearing in means that one more Democrat and one more member of Congress would force a vote on the Epstein files because of something that's called a petition that we would be able to, with 218 members, come to the floor. They're called discharge petitions. 218 represents a majority. And if a majority of people sign the bill, and there are 3 Republicans that have signed on to the bill, and all Democrats, and with the swearing in of Adelita, that would mean 218 Democrats. And so rather than come in and do their job or swear in a newly elected member, Representative Johnson, the Speaker of the House, whose responsibility it is, has not sworn her in. I have signed on to a letter with more than 180 Democrats to stop making excuses and swear in the representative. I'm proud of colleagues who have continually attempted to bring up this issue on the House floor and have her sworn in. But to date, it has not happened. It speaks to the larger issue, though. Why is Johnson keeping the House on an extended vacation at a time when we need leadership? It's because he's doing exactly what Donald Trump is telling him to do. And if you ever needed verification of the fact, just watch what they're doing. They're not in, they're not doing their job, they're not voting, they're not swearing in a new member, and largely because if she's sworn in, that will become the 218th signature to a discharge petition that will bring the Epstein files in front of the Congress for a vote. It's that simple. That's what we have to do, and members are continuing to put pressure on Speaker Johnson. But Gilbert, Speaker Johnson only listens to one person. He doesn't even listen to the members or the 3 Republicans in his own caucus who are on the bill. He listens to Donald Trump.
Our next question is a live caller, Keisha, who is joining us, and she has a question about what's going on right now with the Voting Rights Act. Keisha, you are live with the Congressman.
Hi. Yes. Good night, everyone, and appreciate what you're doing as well, Congressman Larson. But I'm just trying to see what is being done or anything extensive. I don't know, because yes, the Supreme Court is the law of the land, but unfortunately they're kind of somewhat aiding in his lawlessness. So with the civil rights the Voting Rights Act. Is there something that's going to be done if it's overturned per se? Or
Well, Keisha, thank you. Number one, you are correct. The Supreme Court is currently considering a case of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 aims to prevent gerrymandering aimed at diluting the voting power of minorities. Without Section 2, for example, states and localities could be free to draw new maps that make it harder for Black and Hispanic voters to elect candidates that represent them. Right now, we're seeing states like Texas, Missouri, and now North Carolina redistrict mid-decade. Redistricting takes place every decade by law, but some are doing it, and it's a state right. They're doing it currently, mid-district. Their maps would eliminate a number of majority Black and Hispanic districts that usually, as you might suspect, elect Democrats to Congress, including districts represented by my friend Don Davis in North Carolina and my dear friend Reverend Emmanuel Cleaver in Missouri. As a nation, we should be working to ensure that everyone can cast their vote safely and securely, not making it harder to have your voice matter. Congress must act. I'm helping lead the Redistricting Reform Act to ban mid-decade redistricting and require states to appoint nonpartisan redistricting commissions. I'm also the co-sponsor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. John was a dear friend and a seatmate of mine on the Ways and Means Committee, and I was honored to bring him up to the 1st Congressional District on several different occasions, and gratified that he would make the trip here, and equally gratified that I was able to go down to Mississippi with him and take my children and walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where he did so many years ago during the initial phases of the civil rights movement. In the meantime, though, no one stood taller for voting rights than John Lewis. Citizens must hold their local and state legislatures accountable as some states prepare to draw these highly discriminatory maps. Here in Connecticut, that won't be happening, but vigilance, and because of the governor and the General Assembly, but vigilance and outreach to your non-Connecticut friends has never been more important. But thank you again, Keisha, for that question.
Our next question is an online submission from Brianna, who's joining us from Torrington tonight, and she asks, should we expect President Trump to deploy the National Guard here in Connecticut? What actions can be done to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Well, Donald Trump is trying to turn our military into his own personal army, and there's nothing more disturbing, I think, to Americans than to witness what we've seen. And I've had so many people personally, and especially a number of people in the Guard, come to me privately and say how concerned they are about this, and rightfully so. And you heard me say earlier, he summoned the generals and admirals from around the world so that he could tell them that he wants to use our cities, our American cities, as training grounds so they can handle what he refers to as the enemy from within. Have you ever heard an American president say that? He is sending troops to Los Angeles, to Portland, to Chicago, and they have inflamed chaos. He said, of course, that all of the protests that took place this weekend They were going to be violent protests, et cetera, and that's what they needed to protect, everybody from. I was at 4 of them. I'm sure most of you saw, but all across the country, these took place, and they were peaceful demonstrations of people exhibiting their rights and their ability to speak out. Connecticut is lucky to have Governor Ned Lamont and Attorney General William Tong, who both have been steadfast in making sure that they're sticking up for our rights. I'm calling on my Republican colleagues to stand up for the Constitution and American democracy instead of standing by Donald Trump during this authoritarian power grab.
Our next question comes from, looks like Deborah just got off the line, so we will instead go to Karen, who joins us from Bristol with an online question and asks, effective October 1st, Medicare is no longer reimbursing providers for telehealth appointments. My 96-year-old housebound mother's primary care and geriatric doctors will not refill prescriptions or order lab work unless she comes into their office. What can be done?
Well, I'm going to, before I respond, and I'm going to ask Dr. Gillespie if he would like to respond here, and since this is a specific question as it relates to Medicare.
Well, it is really unfortunate that that is going to be the case currently. What we're doing in our practice is trying to make sure that people can get transportation and access to coming into the office or continuing to have telehealth appointments, but not being reimbursed for them because of the very reason that the elderly and the infirm have difficulties in making it to the office. It's an unfortunate turn of events, and I think that we need to be continuing to go after that and turn that around, because it really is increasing the barriers to care, decreasing the quality, and certainly a very great patient dissatisfier.
Well, Karen, let me also add, and Doctor, thank you. First and foremost, I'm sorry to hear that your mother and you are dealing with all this. And it is true that telehealth provisions temporarily expired when the shutdown began. The good news is that I am confident that telehealth will be extended. There is broad agreement bipartisanly in Congress that this should happen. In fact, medical providers should feel confident that they can accept telehealth patients to submit Medicare when the government does reopen. I support a permanent telehealth policy so seniors like your mother don't have to worry about disruptions in service again. Still, that doesn't solve the issue with your mother, and I encourage you to reach out to our office. We have an expert in Lisa Perrone who works here, and our number is 860-278-8888, and we look forward to following up with you.
Thank you, Congressman. Before we go to our last question, I would just like to remind folks that to sign up for our newsletter to receive updates and information about future events with the Congressman, you can press *6 on your keypad. If we were not able to get to your question this evening, you can also leave a voicemail after we finish the last question by calling 860-278-8888. Our final question comes from Garfield, who joins us from Hartford tonight, and he submitted an online question asking, what can seniors expect to happen with their Social Security benefits under the Trump administration?
Well, first and foremost, let me be very clear. Benefits should continue to go out during the shutdown. There is no reason. They are specifically exempted under the law even during a shutdown. And so benefits should go out. If you don't receive them or are experiencing any issues, again, immediately contact our office at 860-278-8888. Back to your question about under the Trump administration. Well, if you've heard me speak before, you know I'm very clear about this. The Trump administration is out to privatize Social Security. That's the reason that they brought Elon Musk on board. That's the reason that Doge went into the Social Security Administration. That's what they're attempting to do now. He's saying that he's not going to touch Social Security. He's not going to harm it. Well, why did they lay off 7,000 people? Why have they closed regional offices across the country? Why are they not improving the phone service? It's a very clever means of trying to alter the system from within and destroy it. Social Security takes care of, it's our number one anti-poverty program for both the elderly and for children. It has never missed a payment and will not miss a payment as long as it is not privatized, as they are out to do. How so? What they want to do is dismantle Social Security from within and be able to say to people, see, this program and this system isn't working. It's not serving you as well. We've got a better idea, and we're going to be able to bring you more money by going into a market system. Well, they haven't come out and said it directly yet, but it's only a matter of time because that's what their actual goal is. Our goal, and of course, in a market strategy like that, it's one thing to talk about pensions. It's another thing to talk about disability. It's another thing to talk about spousal and widows and dependent children. And how many families, I'll bet everyone on this phone call knows, are impacted by Social Security and the ability for us to deliver those services. The genius of Franklin Delano Roosevelt lives on. And all we have to do is make sure that everyone's paying their fair share. And that's what our proposal does. Lifts the cap on Social Security, has the billionaires pay their fair share, allows us to both expand benefits to people who are in desperate need of receiving them, and making sure that no one retires into poverty, no one has to die waiting for a disability payment, that teachers and municipal workers and police officers, etc., get their Social Security that they earned and is rightfully theirs, and to make sure as well that there's consistency in keeping pace with the real cost of living issues that impact seniors. The ARP has been very clear about this, how we have to change the COLA so that it works to reflect what seniors actually spend their money on. That's my focus because this is the number one safety net for capitalism. There is no better economic development program for the country than Social Security. Why? Because every month in all 435 congressional districts, on average, $280 million comes into those congressional districts, to the people in those districts. Where do they spend that money? They spend it on groceries. They spend it at the pharmacy. They spend it heating and cooling their homes, putting gas in their cars and paying for their rent and mortgage. In essence, it's the foundation for an economic development plan for capitalism that allows people to take risk and allows people to make sure that even if they were to fail, that both they and their workers are covered while they seek new employment or jobs, but have a safety net, not only as they're working in the case of disability, but when they retire as well. For more than 40% of the 330 million Americans, Social Security is the only benefit that they have. That's why I feel so strongly. That's why I think everybody knows on this call, and Americans do, why it's so important and why it shouldn't be privatized. No matter how tempting or appealing they make it sound, it's not a guarantee. It doesn't come on a regular basis, and it doesn't cover disability spouses, widows, and dependent children. With that, again, I want to thank our good friend, Dr. Gillespie, for joining us this evening, and I thank him and all the previous guests that we've had. I thank everybody for your thoughtful questions, and as Charles had mentioned, any questions that you had that didn't get answered, please call them in, and we'll get written answers out to everyone that had a question. And with that, thank you very much.